How long has the film actually been done? And has anything changed in the film as a result of Disney purchasing Fox?
I guess I'm the only one who can speak to that one, which is the movie was really it was strange because most movies have a chance to go do pickups or do reshoots. It's sort of like standard for studios, but because the merger happened, everything sort of shut down. And so we were probably like 90% done, but the visual effects weren't done. Went back into editorial before I went to go shoot the stand and finished the cut, locked it, and then they finished the visual effects. I'd say it changed a little bit because I hadn't seen it in a year. And we just did little things here and there that we thought of, especially knowing that we couldn't do any pickups. We were happy with how it turned out. The studio kind of gave us creative reign to go finish it properly. And nobody bothered us, so that I couldn't have asked for more.
I'm sure every filmmaker wishes they had that.
Well, it's a double-edged blade.
For the cast and for you, Josh, this is one of those films that's had a few release dates, and something always seems to come up. Have you guys actually tried picking up the phone and calling people and said, look, there's this thing called Disney Plus. They have Hulu. Do we want to say F it and just put it out?
Yeah.
They may have had the idea.
Yeah.
We're in the same boat as most movies. You know, you sign contracts that sort of guarantee a theatrical release, so it needs to open to ever go digital in the first place. But we just, too, would like people to see it in the theater, but it needs to obviously be at the right time when it's safe to go back.
Have any of you called anyone and said, hey, there's this thing called Disney Plus?
Yeah, I was texting Bob Iger, and
I speak regularly to the guys at Disney, and I'm told that this is the plan, is to go theatrical. So I'm happy with that.
But no, totally. I'm just messing with you guys. One of the things that's cool about this panel that you guys just did for Comic-Con is you showed the first 3.5 minutes of the movie. For the cast, have you guys seen the finished film? Was this your first time seeing the footage?
Yeah.
But we saw the film. I'm so glad that we saw it. We saw it right before everything started, right?
Yeah.
So back in March, beginning of March, was it?
Yeah. We were doing some press in New York, and we got a screening in New York, and we got to see it. And yeah, I mean, can speak for myself, but I think it was kind of a mutual feeling with the cast. But from the initial filming process and then the initial release, there was also a lot of time during that merger where, like you were saying, the cast didn't know what was going on. We hadn't seen anything. What was going on. I mean, Josh, we didn't get to see anything, and during that time, you are constantly wondering what's going on, and it can be phone calls. But what ended up for me, what was really nice, there was, unintentionally, there was this big separation from the movie. So yeah, eventually the curiosity when we got to see it back in March, like this, it was like such a pleasant, I don't want to say pleasant surprise, but just such a pleasant feeling to step away from something for so long and then to come back and to be like, oh wow, and have that experience almost as a viewer. So
we got to see the bear.
I was going to say that, Josh, and finally see the bear.
And Lockheed and all that, because that was the stuff that they really was never done until just this past year.
Yeah.
To piggyback on Charlie's pleasant surprise comment, I also thought we were going to feel a lot of the horror elements come through. And to my surprise, the movie has so much heart. It has such a beautiful story that was like, whoa, maybe this is a romance with tones of horror in it, and it just took me by surprise in such a good way. I
think I am inevitably. The things I make do tend to be emotional and character driven. So that sort of is what it is, regardless of the genre, I guess. But yeah, the actors that I had were such great. Interested in character and character actors, so it's like it became more interesting than just a superhero movie, I guess.
I think the reason the comic book movie, if you will, the genre, has been so successful is that each of the films has pushed the boundaries of what the genre can do. And I'm curious, how does New Mutants maybe do things differently or show things differently, or you know what I mean, as compared to other comic book movies that have come before?
I mean, for me, just aesthetically and tonally and the way we went about shooting it is much more in line with it's all real locations and real. It's just very different from like a larger scale Marvel movie. I mean, to me, it really feels like a throwback movie to like a 90s horror movie that becomes a superhero movie in the last act, I guess.
Yeah, I to just add on to that. I think how contained it is. You know, we're such a small cast, so you know you don't. It's I mean not always, but it's a lot of the time. You know, superhero versus evil, save humanity, and really in our story, it's this contained kind of mutants dealing with inner trauma just as much as like kind of outer kind of enemy, I guess, in a sense. So that's different. I think it kind of zones in a little more.
It is a superhero movie, you know, obviously, but it's definitely more than that. It felt like I'm not making like an indie. I don't even know what that means anymore. But you know, making something really contained and something small. It's about the characters and the romance, and it's very emotional. Yeah, it's a really pretty movie, I think, and I definitely agree with what Henry said about it really being a romance at the core of it, a love story, and you know, a love story between friends too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, friendship story.
Mm-hmm. Friendship story.
Yeah. With some kissing.
Friendship story with some hot sexiness. Just kidding.
You know something though, ultimately we all go to the movies, and the reason we all care about characters is when you get to see characters talking, it's not all about the big action set pieces. If you don't care about the people that you're watching, it really makes no difference if there's a huge action scene.
Exactly. It doesn't hide behind the action scenes. You get to peel the onion of all the characters before they get to be exposed to their own powers, because that's their biggest fear. So that's, I think, what Josh and the whole cast achieved really well, was to really peel those layers before you get, you know, the gimmicks of these action movies that we see today. That's why I said romance. It really hits home.
I don't know. I mean, I guess this is, you know, X-Men as well, but you know what you get to discover, you know, and in the New Mutant story is really, there was a point in the movie when I was watching it where it kind of touched, like, you know, there was that 14-year-old kid in me where I was like, oh, these are just kids just trying their best. They didn't feel like superheroes. It was like it was a very brave. I felt it was like, I was like, they were really brave for what they were doing, and you know, that just kind of just to add on to Henry. It was, you know, that part of it.
And you guys really, Henry and Charlie also have a bit of a bromance in it for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's also existed in the comics, no?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on all those things, and really even the romance between Blue and Maisie was developed from the fact that they have a telepathic sort of connection in the comic, and had a lot more intimacy than other characters did.
If you become part of the MCU, I guess which MCU character would you love to have scenes with?
I guess I would like to. Wait, is I'm just gonna answer it. I don't know.
Go for it.
Well, I think logically it would make sense if Danny had scenes with Tessa Thompson, right? Valkyr, because Danny Moonstar is a Valkyr, so that would make sense.
Eventually, she is.
Fun. And Tessa Thompson did say her character was what
looking for a queen.
Yeah, so like Danny.
Damn, I like that Blue pulled out a deep. I like that Blue pulled out a deep comic pull. Like she went right into the long box and just pulled that out.
I'm a real. Yeah.
I'm kind of more excited about the thing that the MCU hasn't explored yet. I mean, I love the MCU characters, but I'm really excited to see the extension of the New Mutants if it bleeds into the MCU narrative. Like, you know, people like not people. He's not a person. You know, Warlock or Psyche and I don't know, Magma.
Karma's one we like a lot, and you know, Warlock was in really all the drafts we did, almost up to about 3 or 4 months before we shot. But he doubled our budget. He was so expensive, so that was always hopeful for the next movie was Warlock.
Maybe because he can turn into anything in the universe, that might
makes it expensive.
I actually want to do a follow up to that. You'd mentioned that if you were to do a sequel, it would take place in Brazil. Has there been any talk about, since the whole Disney thing, about doing more?
No, I mean, it's like I think everybody just needs to see what happens with this one and see if it catches on or not. But it's like we did always have a plan to kind of do a second movie set in Brazil that'd be Warlock and Karma being introduced, and then a third one that sort of utilized the Inferno crossover series from X-Men in the '90s, which was one of my favorites growing up. That I thought was in the same tonal ballpark as doing horror stuff in each one. Each one was sort of a different sort of horror movie. The second one was going to be an alien invasion movie, and then the third one sort of more like a magic Anya related, Inferno one.
Sounds so cool.
Can't say we were ambitious in our minds.
So no pressure to the fans. It just depends on.
I'm sorry to ask this with the cast on, but Josh, I do want to ask you a little bit about editing. How long, for example, was your first cut compared to the finished film?
Not that much different. So I've had the same editors since my first movie. They're some of my best friends. I have dinner with them every Sunday night back when we used to be able to have dinner together, but we've done that for about a decade. They're just wrapped up cutting The Stand. So, I cut basically 75% of this movie with them, and then they were cutting The Stand already when I finished it. So I brought in another editor to do the final stuff with me. So, I mean, I don't know, you just sit in there and tinker, but I'd say we were 75% done and then did the last percentage just in the past year.
Got it. So how long is the movie? Can you share that?
Oh yeah, I think it's 98 minutes or something like that. It was never more than I think 104, even at its longest. I think I remember my initial cut before we cut anything out was probably 20 minutes longer than that. But you'll see all that on the special features. We put together all the deleted scenes for everybody. It was more just like stuff that was either too funny or like tonally just didn't quite go together, but it's cute character moments that I think fans will like.
Cannot wait to see it. For everyone, because I'm basically out of time or almost out of time, I would love it if each of you could share maybe like a fun memory or something cool that happened while you guys were filming. Just, you know what I mean? Like, what do you remember most from making New Mutants?
You're asking us to go deep back into the memory bank.
We were all younger then.
I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to say so much about the set parts, but to me it was really exciting that we were in the middle of nowhere and it was just mainly 6 actors in the same hallway in this hotel, and we got really close, and every other night we'd hang out together and drink boxed wine and chat about the day. It was just like some sort of fraternity, camaraderie, special moments that only movie sets can give you.
Yeah, I think discovering kind of character relationships and then friendship relationships in our group, it was one of the highlights of doing this. And yeah, I mean, we also just had we had a really great team. From our DP to our first AD, it was a really, I think when you step onto these films, there's always like a fear of kind of that so how big it is and getting kind of like not lost in that, but feeling like a little cog in a big machine. And it really didn't with this. It felt like a really contained film set, and that kind of reflects in the film. So for the experience of making it, was just such a really pleasant one for me, I guess, and how it was crafted together felt very kind of joined together.
I guess the thing I'd say is I got to make this with my best friend who I've known since the day I was born. Our moms are best friends, and we kind of grew up reading Marvel comics together. So I'd say aside from getting to spend time with this cast, who was like the best cast I ever could have asked for, getting to go make this with him and have him be there was really fun, and it was like a childhood dream come true.
I think it's funny because I think per what Josh, Charlie, and Henry said, it was a very special film because even though it's an X-Men world movie, like it's a New Mutants movie, and it in the heart, like the mind of everybody, it's like this gigantic set and all that, which in moments it was. But the crew, I think, because how Josh is as a person and as a director, as an artist, it felt very much like an indie movie in that sense that everybody was connected. He has a very strong relationship with his partners, creative partners, the DP, the art. How do you guys say art director? It's not art director, it's the set designer,
Production
right?
designer.
Production designer is art director is how we say in Portuguese, sorry. But saying all of that, I think it comes a lot from Josh. And I think his choice of putting us into that place that we filmed, which was so real. It wasn't a build set. It was an actual location. I think he brought that sense of that strength for all of us that we were doing something real and not just like on a digital studio set. And I think that brought a very special vibe for us to be together in that location with all the actors. I mean, for me, that's a very fond memory that I have. Like, it was an amazing experience in my life, for sure.
It was the first thing I ever really did. It was like the first real set I was, ever on. I was, I was 21 when I got there. So yeah, I mean, every day there was like kind of a new memory I'll never forget.
I feel like you and Masie had such a good relationship, and you guys became so close.
Me and Masie were pretty insane on set some days. Like we couldn't stop laughing sometimes. We had a little too much fun together. She's definitely one of the closest friends I'll ever have now in my life. She's just a great person. We had so much fun on set. All of us did, though. Like, there's a lot of scenes between just like two people, so we weren't always all on set together. So the days that we was really fun for us to all be there. But a lot of times it was like just me and Masie, or just me and Elise. Me and Elise did so much together, which I mean, that was really cool. Like getting to learn from someone like Elise,
Nice.
From the legend.
Seriously though, no, actually.
Really. We would always, Nate and I would always look at each other and be like, "That's the girl from City of God."
Listen, I have to wrap. I could ask you guys about 75 other questions, and after I've seen the movie, I will. But all I can say is thank you so much for getting on this call with me. I cannot wait to see the finished film.
Thank you so much.